On one of the bikes?
No, not on the bikes.
Okay.
This was just schlepping stuff around. I was a schlepper.
You've been the picker packer.
Yeah,
schlepper.
now I'm a schlepper, but I'm a schlepper in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm hanging out with Seymour, and he's asking me my opinion on all this stuff. Wow. Like, what do you think of this music? And
you're in and you've got the ear.
Yeah,
so,
but to rewind, my dad used to, starting when I was about 12, he used to come home with these test pressings, these white labels, and which were advanced white labels. Before they press them up to distribute them to the world, for the record company, they give you advanced pressings. Okay. So they didn't have any artwork, so they were just white, with the album in there and like a sheet of paper. They gave you song titles. And my dad would give me albums and say, Michael, tell me what you think the best song is. And he would do this often. And then years later, I went to him and said, you were having me pick singles, weren't you? And he said, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So Seymour's now asking me for my opinion.
Which singles did you pick?
Oh, I have no. I mean, I remember one thing. I remember is going in to my dad after he gave me this by this new guy, Gary Wright. I said there's a song here called Dreamweaver that's going to be humongous.
Oh my!
So, but for big bands, little bands, he just had me write down what my favorite songs were, and then he'd go in and it's like consumer testing,
Right.
Yeah.
You were the consumer tester.
I was the consumer testee. So, yeah. So.
With Seymour
I'm hanging out with Seymour.
Yeah.
He's asking me my opinion on all this stuff. He's taking me to shows. So I'm like, I'm in heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were real. Did I ever tell you that my mom and Sid Vicious used to have coffee together at the Chelsea Hotel?
Wow.
My mom lived at the Chelsea for 10 years.
Wow.
And she
saw a lot.
Oh.
That place
she
was
saw all
like
kinds
the
of
crossroads of the world.
Yeah.
Like the dingy side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly. I mean,
Yeah.
she was there from 80. I know she lived there 10 years. And I lived with her for a couple of weeks in 85. So
Yeah.
she must have gotten there around 75. So she was there from like
Wow.
75 to, or 77
that's
to
where
87.
That's where Nancy died.
That's where Nancy died.
Yeah. Sid didn't do it. No
He
way.
didn't?
No
What do you
way.
think?
Supposedly the drug dealer. There was a guy, Neon Leon, who was hanging around. Everybody
Interesting.
thinks it was Neon Leon. Because Sid, the time it happened, and he was a junkie.
Right.
You don't have the strength or
Right.
the gumption to.
Yeah. Mom said that she used to have coffee with him, and she had no idea who he was, but he was so sweet and so nice, and they'd have coffee at the El Quixote Hotel downstairs in the Chelsea Hotel, and she just
Well,
slept in.
Sid got his name. Sid Vicious was not his real name, and he got the name Sid because he was such a nerd, such a geek, that they gave him Sid, and Vicious because he was so not.
Really?
That's how they gave him the name Sid Vicious, and then he just had to live it up. Then he got into the lifestyle and became a Sex Pistol and started doing heroin, and he became, Sid Vicious.
I did not know that.
That's how he got his name.
That's amazing. So how long did you work for Seymour? How long were
I
you
worked
there?
for Seymour for like 7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
And so how did it progress? What was your next?
My big step was being the messenger boy, hanging out in New York back then. You're talking 77. If you're into punk rock, there were only 2 clubs, CBGB's and Max's.
Right.
So I just go to those clubs all the time because it was the only kind of music I was into. I wasn't into disco. I wasn't into the Eagles. I was into Clash and Sex Pistols and the Ramones. So
Right.
I go to the CBGB's and I go to Max's. And I was at CBGB's one night in November, and the B-52s were playing. It was their first time ever in New York.
I love the B-52s.
So did I.
I mean,
and
love
so
them.
they walk on stage, and there are 20 people in the audience, maybe. And Fred says, "Hi, we're a dance band from Georgia," and they launch into like Rock Lobster. And I'm like,
I could sing it
what?
for you right now.
Yeah, I'm
Rock
like, huh?
Lobster, yeah.
So I go back to the phone booth at the backside of CBGB's and call Seymour and say, "Seymour, you got to come down and see this band. They're fucking amazing." Can I say fuck on internet?
I think you can,
okay.
yeah.
I just did.
Okay.
They're fucking amazing. You got to come down and see this band. Okay? And even though he was respecting me, still, it was the messenger boy. It was Tuesday. It was midnight. He's not coming. So I went back and saw the show, and then I went backstage. I mean, backstage at CBGB's, it's like a hovel.
A closet,
Yeah,
right?
not even a closet.
Yeah.
Just like a hallway. And, so I'm talking to the band. I tell them I work at Sire Records, and I thought you were amazing. I don't tell them I'm the messenger boy, but I tell them I work at Sire, so I wasn't lying.
Right.
And I got their contact info because they were going back home the next day. And swear this true story, their contact info because they didn't have a phone where they lived, they all lived together, was where the 3 boys in the band worked, which was the Greyhound bus station in Athens, Georgia.
No way.
Way.
Are you kidding me?
Totally not kidding. So I wait,
Wow.
so I'm in Seymour's office every day saying this band's amazing.
Right.
And he's like, okay, so 3 days later I call the band, figuring they're back in Georgia, and they say they have a show in like a week and a half in Athens. So every day I'm up at Seymour saying, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. Just, you gotta go, you have to go. So he went. And he called me. It was a Saturday night. I remember him calling me, waking me up at home on Sunday, freaking out. They're amazing. We got to sign them. They're amazing. And I'm saying, yeah, I know. They're amazing. So Monday he called me up into his office, and he handed me a big box of tapes. Said, listen to this stuff and let me know what you think. So I was now an A&R guy.